All right. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Jesse Hughes Show. We are set and ready here in just a moment to be reacting to President Trump's live remarks about the war in Iran. And there is quite a few things. We're going to go ahead and bring up this screen here just so that we can be ready to go in case anything happens while we are live. There we go. We are live. That is live. We are ready to go. So, what we have in this situation, let me make sure that this is showing. Nope, I want that. So, we've got a lot going on here tonight. We've got a lot to be looking at, looking for. And there's been some rumors about the possibility of boots on the ground being announced. Now, that is something that I've been consistent about. I've said, I was uneasy about this. I trust the president. I trust the cabinet. But boots on the ground is somewhere where I am not going to be supportive of this war. I will still support the president on other domestic policies and things on which we agree, like the Monroe Doctrine, like mass deportations, like the various domestic and Western Hemisphere centric policies that I think he's doing good on. But this would be a place where I would break with the president if we announce that we are, in fact, putting boots on the ground, which I hope does not happen. So we're going to be earnestly watching and waiting to see what the president is going to say on this matter. I'm also going to be breaking out the iPad and monitoring X as this goes on, just to gauge people's reactions to these events, to these stories, and to see what is going on. We've got other stuff that we're going to cover tonight as well. We are going to talk about, of course, the mission to the moon, and we are going to be covering why that is actually an amazing thing for the nation and why we needed to do this and why it shows American excellence and American exceptionalism. Now, as always, before this gets started, just want to plug our sponsor. We are sponsored by Deus Volt lapel pens. I'm wearing one right now. It's a Jerusalem cross. If you want awesome based lapel pens that you can use to show your pride in the country, to show your pride in America, to show your faith and to wear your faith on your sleeve, like with this one or with their beautiful America 250 pen, various pens on their website, go to deusvoltlapelpens.com right now, deusvoltlapelpens.com. Go check out what they have and use the code ChristFamilyNation26 in all caps, ChristFamilyNation26 to get 10% off at checkout. They also just launched new ties, Deus Volt lapel pen ties, in collaboration with another company. There's some awesome looking ties. The discount code works for those as well. So go to deusvoltlapelpens.com, check out their selection, go see what they've got.
Follow your heart to Hallmark Plus.
Have a Hallmark ad.
Aren't you gonna kiss me, cowboy?
Thought you'd never ask.
We love
Get
YouTube.
exclusive new original series you can't
So
see
here's what I'm
anywhere
going
else.
to do. I'm going to mute that for right now. And we are going to go back to that once the president is speaking. My apologies for that interruption. So I'm going to just to be safe here. We're going to take that off the screen. I've still got on another screen. I can see what's happening. But we are anxiously anticipating the president's address tonight, where his announcements. I'm hoping to see that we will have a de-escalation, that we've gotten many of our points across, that we've achieved many of our goals, and that we're ready to step into diplomatic negotiations. Will that happen? I do not know. But hopefully that is the case. If you have any questions, thoughts, comments, or concerns for me as this night goes on, make sure to use the chat, drop them in the comments. We're going to talk about this announcement, we're going to talk about the moon. We're going to talk about the moon and why the new moon mission is based and why we actually did land on the moon. We're going to talk about the birthright citizenship debates. The birthright citizenship debates. We will be talking about that. And it looks like we have the president coming in now. So we are going to be switching over to that. And we are going to tune in.
Thank you very much. My fellow Americans, good evening. Let me begin by congratulating the team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of Artemis II. It was quite something. It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home from a distance that has never been done before. It's amazing. They are on the way, and God bless them. These are brave people. We want to God bless those 4 unbelievable astronauts. As we speak this evening, it's been just 1 month since the United States military began Operation Epic Fury, targeting the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, Iran. In these past 4 weeks, our armed forces have delivered swift, decisive, overwhelming victories on the battlefield. Victories like few people have ever seen before. Tonight, Iran's Navy is gone. Their Air Force is in ruins. Their leaders, most of them terrorist regime they led, are now dead. Their command and control of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is being decimated as we speak. Their ability to launch missiles and drones is dramatically curtailed, and their weapons, factories, and rocket launchers are being blown to pieces. Very few of them left. Never in the history of warfare has an enemy suffered such clear and devastating large-scale losses in a matter of weeks. Our enemies are losing, in America, as it has been for 5 years under my presidency, is winning, and now winning bigger than ever before. Before discussing this current situation, I also want to thank our troops for the masterful job they did in taking the country of Venezuela in a matter of minutes. That hit was quick, lethal, violent, and respected by everyone all over the world. After rebuilding our military during my first term, we have by far the strongest military anywhere in the world. And now we're working along with Venezuela and are, in a true sense, joint venture partners. We're getting along incredibly well in the production and sale of massive amounts of oil and gas, the second largest reserves on earth after the United States of America. We're now totally independent of the Middle East, and yet we are there to help. We don't have to be there. We don't need their oil. We don't need anything they have, but we're there to help our allies. Tonight, I want to provide an update on the tremendous progress our warriors have made in Iran and discuss why Operation Epic Fury is necessary for the safety of America and the security of the free world. From the very first day I announced my campaign for president in 2015, I have vowed that I would never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. This fanatical regime has been chanting death to America, death to Israel for 47 years. Their proxies were behind the murder of 241 Americans in the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, the slaughter of hundreds of our service members with roadside bombs. They were involved in the attack on the USS Cole, and they carried out the countless other heinous acts, including the just horrible, bloody atrocities of October 7th in Israel, something that most people have never seen anything like it. This murderous regime also recently killed 45,000 of their own people who were protesting in Iran, 45,000 dead. For these terrorists to have nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat. The most violent and thuggish regime on earth would be free to carry out their campaigns of terror, coercion, conquest, and mass murder from behind a nuclear shield. I will never let that happen, and neither should any of our past presidents. This situation has been going on for 47 years and should have been handled long before I arrived in office. I did many things during my 2 terms in office to stop the quest for nuclear weapons by Iran first, and perhaps most importantly, I killed General Qasem Soleimani in my first term. He was an evil genius, brilliant person, a horrible human being, however, the father of the roadside bomb, and he lived just horrible what he did. Iran would have been perhaps in far better, stronger position. Had he lived, we would have had probably a different conversation tonight. But you know what? We'd still be winning and winning big. And then very importantly, I terminated Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal, a disaster. Obama gave them $1.7 billion in cash, green cash, took it out of banks from Virginia, D.C., and Maryland, all the cash they had. He flew it by airplanes in an attempt to buy their respect and loyalty, but it didn't work. They laughed at our president and went on with their mission to have a nuclear bomb. His Iran deal would have led to a colossal arsenal of massive nuclear weapons for Iran. And they would have had them years ago, and they would have used them. It would have been a different world. There would have been no Middle East and no Israel right now, in my opinion, the opinion of a lot of great experts, had I not terminated that terrible deal. And I was so honored to do it. I was so proud to do it. It was so bad right from the beginning. Essentially, I did what no other president was willing to do. They made mistakes, and I am correcting them. My first preference was always the path of diplomacy, yet the regime continued their relentless quest for nuclear weapons and rejected every attempt at an agreement. For this reason, in June, I ordered a strike on Iran's key nuclear facilities, an Operation Midnight Hammer. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Those beautiful B-2 bombers performed magnificently. We totally obliterated those nuclear sites. The regime then sought to rebuild their nuclear program at a totally different location, making clear they had no intention of abandoning their pursuit of nuclear weapons. They were also rapidly building a vast stockpile of conventional ballistic missiles and would soon have had missiles that could reach the American homeland, Europe, and virtually any other place on earth. Iran's strategy was so obvious. They wanted to produce as many missiles as possible, and they did, with the longest range possible. And they had some weapons that nobody believed they had. We just learned that out. We took them out. We took them all out so that no one would really dare stop them. And their race for a nuclear bomb, a nuclear weapon like nobody's ever seen before. They were right at the doorstep. For years, everyone has said that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. But in the end, those are just words if you're not willing to take action when the time comes. As I stated in my announcement of Operation Epic Fury, our objectives are very simple and clear. We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's Navy, which is now absolutely destroyed, hurting their Air Force and their missile program at levels never seen before, and annihilating their defense industrial base. We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb. Our armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it militarily. Everyone is talking about it, and tonight I'm pleased to say that these core strategic objectives are nearing completion. As we celebrate this progress, we think especially of the 13 American warriors who have laid down their lives in this fight to prevent our children from ever having to face a nuclear Iran. Twice this past month, I have traveled to Dover Air Force Base, and it's been something. I wanted to be with those heroes as they return to American soil, and I was with them and their families, their parents, their wives, their husbands. We salute them, and now we must honor them by completing the mission for which they gave their lives. And every single one of the people, their loved ones said, please, sir, please finish the job, every one of them. And we are going to finish the job, and we're going to finish it very fast. We're getting very close. I want to thank our allies in the Middle East, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain.
Adventure isn't just where you go, it's what you learn along the way. At Radford University, adventure happens in clinics, classrooms, labs, and outdoors. Plan your visit. You'll see.
Short-term increase has been entirely the result of the Iranian regime launching deranged terror attacks against commercial oil tankers in neighboring countries that have nothing to do with the conflict. This is yet more proof that Iran can never be trusted with nuclear weapons. They will use them, and they will use them quickly. It would lead to decades of extortion, economic pain, and instability worse than we can ever imagine. The United States has never been better prepared economically to confront this threat. You all know that. We built the strongest economy in history. We're going through it right now, the strongest in history. In 1 year, we've taken a dead and crippled country. I hate to say that, but we were a dead and crippled country after the last administration and made it the hottest country anywhere in the world by far, with no inflation, record-setting investments coming into the United States, over $18 trillion, and the highest stock market ever, with 53 all-time record highs in just 1 year. It all positioned us to get rid of a cancer that has long simmered. It's known as the nuclear Iran, and they didn't know what was coming. They've never imagined it. Remember, because of our drill baby drill program, America has plenty of gas. We have so much gas. Under my leadership, we are #1 producer of oil and gas on the planet, without even discussing the millions of barrels that we're getting from Venezuela. Because of the Trump administration's policies, we produce more oil and gas than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. Think of that, Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. And that number will soon be substantially higher than that. There's no country like us anywhere in the world, and we're in great shape for the future. The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. We've beaten and completely decimated Iran. They are decimated, both militarily and economically and in every other way. And the countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on. So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. #1, buy oil from the United States of America. We have plenty. We have so much. And #2, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the Strait and just take it, protect it, use it for yourselves. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done, so it should be easy. And in any event, when this conflict is over, the Strait will open up naturally. It'll just open up naturally. They're going to want to be able to sell oil because that's all they have to try and rebuild. It will resume the flowing, and the gas prices will rapidly come back down. Stock prices will rapidly go back up. They haven't come down very much, frankly. They came down a little bit, but they've had some very good days over the last couple of days. We've done actually much better than I thought. But we had to take that little journey to Iran to get rid of this horrible threat. With our historic tax cuts, where people are just now talking about receiving larger refunds than they ever thought possible. They are getting so much more money than they thought. That's from the great big beautiful bill. Our economy is strong and improving by the day, and it will soon be roaring back like never before. It will top the levels that it was a month ago. I've made clear from the beginning of Operation Epic Fury that we will continue until our objectives are fully achieved. Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable. Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone, and there's not a thing they could do about it. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated. We are unstoppable as a military force. The nuclear sites that we obliterated with the beach.
Hey, Holmes, find me a 3-bedroom home in Atlanta. Near a
nuclear dust, and we have it under intense satellite surveillance and control. If we see them make a move, even a move for it, we'll hit them with missiles very hard again. We have all the cards, they have none. It's very important that we keep this conflict in perspective. American involvement in World War I lasted 1 year, 7 months, and 5 days. World War II lasted for 3 years, 8 months, and 25 days. The Korean War lasted for 3 years, 1 month, and 2 days. The Vietnam War lasted for 19 years, 5 months, and 29 days. Iraq went on for 8 years, 8 months, and 28 days. We are in this military operation, so powerful, so brilliant, against one of the most powerful countries for 32 days. And the country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer. This is a true investment in your children and your grandchildren's future. The whole world is watching, and they can't leave the power, strength, and brilliance. They just can't believe what they're seeing. They leave it to your imagination, but they can't believe what they're seeing. The brilliance of the United States military. Tonight, every American can look forward to a day when we are finally free from the wickedness of Iranian aggression and the specter of nuclear blackmail. Because of the actions we have taken, we are on the cusp of ending Iran's sinister threat to America and the world. And I'll tell you, the world is watching. And when we do, when it's all over, the United States will be safer, stronger, more prosperous, and greater than it has ever been before. May God bless the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much, and good night.
All right, so we just heard the President of the United States. I've got some notes up here. We just heard the President of the United States discuss the ongoing situation in Iran, and we are here to react to it. We are here to react to it. So we've got several key points to talk about for a moment. So this has been a month. This has been going on for a month. And as you heard the president claim, we've seen total decimation of the Iranian state. And I mean, to be fair, that has seemed to be accurate so far. We killed the Ayatollah within the first couple of days. We made significant progress. And so he claims that all of their leadership, all of their old leadership has essentially been eliminated. And from reports that I've seen, that seems to be true. And that the new leadership is much less radical and more willing to negotiate, which is, of course, a good thing. We're seeing progress, hopefully, on getting out of this fight. Trump has one of the main things, one of the biggest takeaways I saw in this is he mentioned Venezuela. He mentioned the operations going on in Venezuela and how quickly we took those out, and now we have access to Venezuelan oil, which means we don't have to rely on the Middle East as much for our oil. And he even went as far to say that any country that wants to see the Strait of Hormuz reopened, they're going to have to get involved. They're going to have to get into the fight. If you are reliant on the Strait of Hormuz for your oil, and he claims that we are not, then you're going to have to get involved and get into the fight. And he mentioned that the new regime, he says a regime change was not planned, but has already occurred, and the new leaders are more willing to work than prior, calls for a deal to be made, or he will take strikes on the power plants in Iran. He will target their energy infrastructure, their power infrastructure. There was no mention tonight at all of boots on the ground, which I'm very, very pleased to hear. That would have been something that would have been incredibly disheartening if he would have announced boots on the ground, but he didn't. He never mentioned it. In fact, he seemed to insinuate that we're only a couple weeks away from getting out of this mess completely, which I hope is true. And we can finally pull out, negotiate a peace settlement. He did say that if Iran moves to recover nuclear dust, they will be bombed into oblivion. They will be bombed into submission. So we've got a lot of things going on with this whole situation, but the most encouraging part of it that I heard was that we are only a couple weeks away from victory. I hope that holds to be true. And that this there was no mention at all of boots on the ground. That is a very good thing. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to not hear about boots on the ground, actually. I'm glad to hear that he didn't discuss that. So hopefully this turns out to be true. Iran has mentioned that they're going to come to the negotiating table. If you spent a lot of your time on Twitter, as I do, you would see people going crazy saying that Iran has the upper hand, that they're winning, that they're doing this, that they're doing that, but they're not willing to negotiate. And of course, that is verifiably false. If the United States wanted to just wipe Iran off the map tomorrow, we could. We could. Obviously, we don't want that. I'm not advocating for that. But we could. It is a possibility. It's within the realm of possibility. It's something that we have the power to do. But obviously, we are not doing that. We are showing some level of restraint. And there is a lot of discussion about whether or not this is with our strategic interest. I would like to say, just my belief is that regardless of whether or not this was in our strategic interest to get involved with in the first place, we are now involved. And so we should seek to see a victory for the United States. Now, that doesn't mean that victory looks like total, complete decimation of the country, fueling protesters to rise up and take back their nation. But victory could look like a negotiated peace settlement that includes getting Iran to stop trying to develop nuclear weapons, because Iran really, they shouldn't have nuclear weapons. This is something that Trump has been consistent on for a long time. And even though I was skeptical of these strikes in the beginning, even though I was skeptical of Operation Epic Fury in the beginning, I do think that it is probably wise that a nation like Iran does not have nukes. I think that is probably within everyone's best interest. And at one point, he mentioned that there was a whole list of allies. He mentioned Israel. Of course, people are going to freak out about that. But he also mentioned Saudi Arabia, Qatar, a whole bunch of other Middle Eastern countries, all places that Iran just randomly decided to bomb whenever we started bombing them. Very interesting tactic indeed. But it's not just Israel that's pushing for this. Obviously, we see other Middle Eastern countries have been pushing for this as well because they see Iran as a threat to their stability as well. A radical Islamic country like Iran having access to nukes is a bad idea. And so while I was skeptical in the beginning of this sort of action, I want to see American victory because I support our country. I do not want to see boots on the ground. I do not want to see American soldiers in Iran. That would be terrible. That would be a failure, in my opinion. And so I do not want to see that. And I hope that the president does not go in that direction. It seems like he was insinuating in some ways tonight that he wouldn't be. And I hope that remains true. So, very interesting address. I wouldn't say that there was much in terms of solid updates on a lot of things. It just seems to be some of the same stuff that we've heard in the previous weeks, but solid address overall. And hopefully we can get out of this conflict soon, hopefully sooner rather than later. And we can move on to, once again, prioritizing domestic policy. And maybe even getting into a little patriot fun in Cuba. You know, we want to see a little patriot fun in Cuba maybe, but that's a whole different discussion for a whole different time. You guys know that I'm a firm supporter of the Monroe Doctrine, but that's, again, a whole different discussion for a whole nother time. So we're going to move on. Now, Trump opened his address by celebrating the astronauts who went up to the moon, the Artemis 2 mission. And we are going to get into that and why I think that's a great thing. But we opened the show doing this. I want to once again remind you guys, if you want awesome lapel pins just like the one that I'm wearing, make sure that you go to deusvoltlapelpins.com. They've got a ton of amazing pins, and they've got new ties. They've got ties that have the Cairo on them, the ancient Christian monogram of the Greek initials for Jesus Christ, or the first two letters of the word Christ, excuse me. They've got these Jerusalem cross pins. They've got a ton of great pins, a ton of great material on that website. Make sure you go to, if you want to support the show, make sure you go to deusvoltlapelpins.com and use code ChristFamilyNation26 for 10% off at checkout. You guys will not regret it. I promise you. I've got so many of their products. But we are sending people back to the moon. Now, unfortunately, to my great disappointment, they will not actually be physically stepping on the moon again. Yes, I said again. But instead, we'll be orbiting the moon. But still, this is something that we haven't seen in a very long time. And I am very excited about it. And I'm disappointed that we haven't seen nearly as much coverage or reaction to this as this deserves. Because this is a full display, once again, of American excellence and American exceptionalism. We are the greatest country in the world. I firmly believe that. And we are capable of doing whatever we put our minds to whenever we want to. And so seeing people go back to the moon is, of course, a great, great, great thing. And I'm proud of this country right now, seeing that happen. Hopefully we will have people step foot on the moon again, but this is an awesome feat. This is amazing. And I am very, very glad to see it. Now, I want to address the elephant in the room. There are some people, and I've been going hard after some of these people today, there are some people who will tell you that we were never on the moon to begin with. We never landed on the moon. We didn't go to the moon. Thank you for recycling the talking points of third world communists who hate white people and hate Western civilization and don't believe that we can do anything special. When in fact we can. We went to the moon. We landed on the moon. It happened. I have some questions about the validity of the footage, but we went to the moon. It happened. If it didn't happen, the Soviet Union at the time would have gone insane pushing this narrative and saying, oh, America didn't go to the moon. America never went to the moon. It's propaganda. But interestingly, they didn't. They actually covered the moon landing, and some outlets begrudgingly celebrated it as a great success for the United States and the Soviet Union and other communist countries. So if we would have went to the moon, if we would have not went to the moon, if we would have faked the whole thing, the Soviets would have exposed it, and they didn't. Seems reasonable to me to believe that, yeah, actually we did go to the moon. This is something that actually happened. This is something that actually did happen. And once again, just like 50 years ago when we first stepped foot on the moon, today, again, we are showing American dominance, American excellence, and American exceptionalism. We are the greatest country in the world, and no one will ever change my mind on that. There may be times I disagree with America's leadership on certain things. There may be times where I think that the country is headed in a bad direction, but I still will always support this country because I love it, because I'm a patriot. We need to revive the virtue of patriotism. Too often we hear people moan and complain and talk about how bad things are and how bad America is and this and that and the other. We need to revive patriotism in this country, especially this year. Especially this year, the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence and the start to our road to building the greatest nation this world has ever seen. We need to revive the patriot spirit in this country, and I'm hopeful that we can. I'm confident that we can. It is something that we can do, should do, and will do. We will revive patriotism. Now, I was going to insert another story here. We're going to push that back a little bit. I'm going to take a sip of my chair wine real quick. If you're ever in North Carolina, get yourself some chair wine. Get yourself some chair wine. It is an amazing drink. But I do want to bring up one thing that I saw today that I checked Twitter earlier and found. Trump was giving a speech at the White House earlier today, way before his address to the nation tonight. And he mentioned that he thinks that Erica Kirk should sue all of the people that are slandering her for defamation. In fact, let me find the exact quote for you guys real quick. This is from Nick Sorter, great patriot. Oh, this is not the right quote. Here we go. Trump says to Erica Kirk that she should sue the behinds, fill in the blank, off of the people defaming her. They're so jealous of you. This person that posted this adds some commentary. It's true they are, lawyer up. I'm not going to repeat that. I'm not going to repeat that on this program. This is a family-friendly program. However, this is something that is very important. Erica Kirk has been, of course, the subject of countless conspiracies, slanders, lies from various segments of the right, including Candace Owens, including Ian Carroll, including this Project Constitution page. We all remember a couple weeks ago we saw Project Constitution post about this phone call of someone trying to arrange clients for Epstein. They insinuated and said that it might have been Erica Kirk. It sounded like Erica Kirk to them. Turns out it was actually a different woman altogether who claims to be a victim, but was complicit in helping Epstein get new women, get underage women. And interestingly enough, she was Ro Khanna's guest to the State of the Union. In case you didn't know that, very interesting fun fact. But you see these types of slanders all the time. You see this stuff going left and right. And I think that it would be a wise, excuse me, a wise decision to sue people that are slandering and committing defamation. Now, because Erica Kirk is a public figure, the standards are much higher. For defamation of people who are public figures, you need to prove actual malice, which I think it is a very high standard, but I think actual malice is present in many of these cases. These people hate her for whatever reason. I think some of it has to do with they're jealous of Turning Point USA's success. A lot of these people were the very same people that before Charlie Kirk died, before he was assassinated and martyred in front of our eyes, a lot of these people were the same people, not all of them, but many of them, who were in Charlie Kirk's replies while he was alive, calling him a Zionist cuck, saying that he was a fake Christian. We've been over this before. We've talked about this before. But now that Charlie's dead, they have pretended to care and they've pretended to be sorry for this tragic event. And now they're going after Erica Kirk because they need a new person to fuel their rage towards. I have not seen, I've looked, I've listened, I've watched videos, I've looked into these claims. There's no evidence of any of the things that people are accusing Erica Kirk of that I have seen. Maybe I'm missing something. If I am, please feel free to send me information. I would love to have it, love to see it, and love to put it up to scrutiny to see if it's true. I'm willing to change my mind. But I haven't seen anything that suggests nefarious behavior or some kind of sick motive or anything from Erica. I've heard people claim that under Erica Kirk's leadership, Turning Point USA has switched positions on things that Charlie Kirk held dear to him. One example is what's going on in Iran. They claim that the organization is supporting this war. Charlie wouldn't have supported this war. Well, first off, let's be honest to the facts. When Charlie Kirk was alive, we saw Operation Midnight Hammer last summer. Charlie Kirk said, I wasn't a fan of this. I would have advised against it, but I trust the president. I do not ever want to try to claim to speak for a man who is no longer with us and say what he would have said. I think it would be likely that he would probably hold the same opinion now. However, I'm not going to try to speak for him. But that is pretty much the exact same point of view that you've seen coming out of Turning Point USA since this whole thing started. Andrew Colvett and Blake Neff on the Charlie Kirk Show, they're disconnected technically from Turning Point. They don't work for Turning Point, but they still represent Turning Point in a substantial way. They have basically had the same opinion that Charlie had as Operation Midnight Hammer back last summer. They've said, we don't know if we would have advised for this. We don't know if this was the best move. We're skeptical of this. But we trust the president. We trust Marco Rubio. We trust J.D. Vance. We trust these guys. Same opinion that I've held. I think it's a reasonable opinion. Maybe you disagree, but it's the opinion that Charlie Kirk has held. It's when it was Operation Midnight Hammer. It's the opinion that people associated with Turning Point hold with Operation Epic Fury. It's the opinion that I hold. I have no association with Turning Point other than I do some work with the Turning Point Action Gen Z Coalition here in Virginia, but I don't know these people. I briefly met Mikey McCoy at an event earlier last year, but I don't know these people. I have no connection to these people, but I don't represent Turning Point. I have no connection to them. I never met Charlie. I wish I would have. I really wish I would have. He was supposed to come to Liberty in October of last year, and unfortunately we saw what happened. But they hold reasonable opinions that I hold as well, and many other patriots across this website hold. I'm streaming on X, that's why I said that. But people are just making up the wildest claims about this whole thing, and it is insane and sad to see. All right. We are going to talk about something of grave importance. Well, before we do, I do just want to say earlier today, I reached a important milestone, somewhat important, and that would be I've crossed 7,000 followers on the platform X. And I just want to thank all of you guys for supporting me. This whole thing has been by God's grace and to God's glory, and I couldn't do it without any of you coming behind me, supporting the show, supporting my page, and locking in with us. And so I'm very grateful. I'm very, very proud. And so thank you guys so much. But we're going to talk about the last thing we're going to discuss tonight is a very important matter, and that is the whole argument about birthright citizenship. Now, I did not, unfortunately, get a chance to listen to the oral arguments today. I did not get a chance to do that, but I did see some discussion about them online. Things don't look great for us on this front. There is some speculation that this is because it was an executive order and that you would need a constitutional amendment to change this. There could be some truth to that. However, at the same time, it's common sense and should be common sense that just because you're someone that's on our soil and happens to have a child here, that does not mean that that child is automatically granted citizenship at all. That does not mean that at all. And just in case you were unaware, I want to read to you. This is from the framers of the 14th Amendment during discussions about the 14th Amendment. So the whole argument comes down to the clause in the 14th Amendment. I'm going to pull it up just to. So all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. What does that mean? Does that mean illegal aliens? No. In fact, from the framers of the 14th Amendment, this is a direct quote from them. This will, of course, include persons born, or excuse me, let me restart. This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of person, aka citizens and their children, or naturalized. Natural citizens or naturalized citizens and their children. Seems pretty cut and dry to me. Yet, for some reason, the Supreme Court, back in the day, decided that this actually is not what the 14th Amendment means. It actually means that if you're an illegal alien and you're here, or you're a foreign citizen, you're not a citizen of the United States, and you're here and you have a child, oh, that child's a citizen now. That is ridiculous. That is not at all what was intended. That was not at all what was intended. And so you had the arguments. Trump showed up to the court today. Very, very fun reactions to that. In case you guys don't know, I do videos for another channel called Resist the Mainstream, and we put out, or I filmed, I'm not sure if it's out yet, but I filmed today a video about a Democratic congresswoman from the state of Nevada. You might have seen this. She posted in a now deleted post a tirade where she's saying, this is so effing stupid about Trump going to the court. I hope they F him in the face. Sorry, I say the F word a lot. She spelled it out. This is a family-friendly show. Once again, I'm not going to say those words on this program. However, she's now deleted the tweet, but I made the point when I was filming those videos. This is completely unprofessional. And also, just to point out, in a post-Charlie Kirk world where Charlie was assassinated, where he was martyred, we've seen that leftists, they take cues from speech like this as permission to go out and do violence. This was completely reckless of this congresswoman to say that. But that, again, once that video drops, I might throw it on the good old X page and let you guys watch it. But go subscribe to Resist the Mainstream. It is myself and another gentleman who's a radio broadcaster in Nashville, a very based guy. We're doing the videos. Make sure you go support that channel. Great project. But this whole argument about birthright citizenship, once again, you can argue about the means. You can argue about whether or not what Trump did was proper. That's a whole discussion for a whole nother time. But the case is very clear. Illegal aliens, when they have children here, their children should not just automatically get citizenship. That was never what was intended by the 14th Amendment, and that's a terrible policy. Foreigners, same thing. Anyone who's not a citizen of this country, if they have a child here, that child should not just automatically be granted citizenship. It's a ridiculous stance to take. I mean, imagine for a moment. We have some pretty adversarial relationships with China right now. Imagine 5 million Chinese women just coming to the United States while they're pregnant, and all of a sudden they have a kid here. Why on earth would we ever grant those kids citizenship? Ever. It makes zero sense. And yet this has been the policy for about the last almost century-ish. It is utterly ridiculous, and I hope the Supreme Court does the right thing. From what I've heard, things don't necessarily look good from the oral arguments today, but I'm hoping that they do the right thing. That concludes our show tonight, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome. Make sure, if you're on YouTube, to hit subscribe and share this with your friends. If you're on X, hit follow. Give me a repost, do whatever. But I really, really appreciate you guys. It is Holy Week this week. So actually, we're going to close the show on this note. It's Holy Week this week. On Friday, we remember and we recognize the death of our Savior, the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who took on flesh, took our place, took our punishment, and died on the cross. And then 3 days later, on Easter Sunday, he rose from the dead triumphantly, defeating sin and death and paving a path for us. God offers us the free gift of grace because of the work of his Son, Christ, on the cross, the finished work and the resurrection. The most important decision you will ever make in your life is whether you decide to repent of your sins, trust in Christ as your Savior, and turn your life over and surrender to him. If you have not made that decision today, I pray, I beg, I ask, I plead, turn to Christ. It is the best decision you will ever make. You will not regret it. And this season, the Easter season, is probably the best time that you could do it. It's the best time you could ever do it. So thank you guys so much for watching. God loves you, and so do I. Have a great Easter weekend. Remember our Lord this week.